Hello everybody, and welcome back again to another Smile tutorial, and this time we are going to have a wonderful fun look at the graphics editor. Now this is not one of my most favorite things to do, but it is very useful. There's quite a few things you can do with it. I'm going to try my best to explain everything, and hopefully it's clear. But my initial plan was to go through everything sort of one by one, then mash that together, but they're all sort of connected in a way, so I don't think that's going to work so well, but we'll try and work through this. So anyway, obviously, get to the graphics editor through tools, and that pops up this separate window. Now, there are these different sections. You've got your palette editor, tile table editor, you have a tile sheet over here, and this is also another little tile sheet thing. This is actually what you build with in Smile. See, if I click down here, it moves the window so it's in view. So these are the tiles in Smile you use to build the room. These are where all the tiles come from. All the tiles in every tile sheet like this all come from the box over here, and this is the CRE, which makes up all this tile stuff up here. So to get started, before we mess with this stuff, because this is a bit more complicated over here, let's take a look at the palette editor. We'll try to get through this one. So the palette editor obviously is the palettes that the tile sets for that area are using. So a couple things to note: palette line 0 and 1, these have specific palettes in them, like tell here. These are map colors for your mini map, so those might look a little familiar. Here are your CRE colors, or these 4, basically to make up all the color in there. Alright, and here's Powerbomb Door palette. This also doubles as the acid palette for the area. So if you want to change the palette of the acid, you change these 3. But there's a warning with that, which I will get into a little later. But just keep that in mind. You have your super missile door, and then your beam door. There's some more complicated stuff with the doors though. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Some other tile sets, like, let me see if I can find, oh, that's not what I want. Where's, already, okay, must be down here that I'm looking for it. It's Crades, Crocomires, okay. For instance, here's Dragons. So and each of these graphic sets have a separate thing you can do with them. Obviously, see this, all this blanked out tile space. You will see that quite a lot with bosses, and some bosses, some bosses will have like the initial palette built into the palette editor. So you might want to be a little careful. Let me see if I can find it here. So like palette line 5 right here. That is Dragon's initial palette right there, so you can see. So be careful. Just keep in mind, if you're editing something with a boss room, keep that in mind. Is just check to make sure. It will not be an initial palette built into the palette editor here if the boss does not have tiles in the tile sheet. Like Dragon is built out of layer 2, Phantoon is also the same way, so their tiles are actually in the tile sheet, and they'll have a palette for it in there somewhere. So I guess I should mention this right now since I did it. All these numbers here, you have 8 rows. You can see what they look like on different tiles by clicking these numbers up here. Your completely safe doing this. It just shows you what all the tiles look like. So you can see that's your CRE with this palette line. And you can see it with all the other different palette lines. I've grabbed some tiles. In fact, I think it's 13. This may not be it. Okay, maybe it is. I don't know. We'll try it with this one. But I have grabbed some tiles just by scrolling through and saying, oh hey, yeah, right here. So it's like, I was just looking through, palettes in there, I haven't done anything. But these tiles, they look pretty good to me, so it's like, hey, I'll use those. It might need a few little adjustments here and there, but you can mess with that. So, basically, that is the bulk of the palette editor. It's really self-explanatory. A few things to keep in mind, especially with the CRE, is that while all of this is different per tile set, for instance, we'll be getting into the tile table editor. So yeah, tile sheet, tile table over here. So once we're in here, this, if I have the same tile set through 1 through 12, I could have this a different number. See if I want to change it to 7. That's great. It'll still be green in the other tile sets. However, with the CRE, it's shared between all the different graphic sets. So let's say I made a powerbomb door down here. I wanted this to be my powerbomb door because that's just a lovely color. If I change this to 6, this will use 6 through all tile sets. And if you're not aware of that, you can really get yourself in a bind with some palettes. Or it might just be randomly changing door colors and you're wondering why it's doing that. It's because this shares it across all tile sets. So keep that in mind. If you want to change the acid color without changing powerbomb door colors, you have to put your powerbomb door somewhere else. And then make sure that palette is in every tile set you're using at that location. So that's the tricky thing with the doors, is more specifically the CRE, because that's what does that. Also, palette line 1, certain palettes in here will not fade out during door transitions normally. So if you have random tiles popping out during door transitions, not fading out, that is why. And let me see what else. I think that's basically most for the palette editor. If you do edit palettes, I would recommend finding your color, whatever, first. Make some really weird super missile doors here. If you find the colors you like, get that set up first for everything. Then simply go over to one of your palettes, click back, click this constantly save and update map, and then change it back over to the one spot you just moved it off of. If you don't do that, and if you just have doing this, constantly saving every single time you change one little palette bit, that will make your palette much bigger, and you will quickly run out of space, and you'll get a message saying you're going to overwrite stuff. And it will overwrite stuff, so that's just a little tip I have for that. And yeah, that's basically it for the palette editor. Whatever palette changes you make, you can see the changes. As you can see, this is what the doors would look like, because the doors use these first 3 palette bits. So you can look and see how they turn out, because if I wanted to do, say, this, I could do this all day and just look at, see what comes out, and not actually save it. So I can do this until I'm happy with something, and then save it. If you plan on doing a lot of palette changes, make sure you've got it all in there before you save it. I would recommend that. Like I mentioned earlier, you will run out of space very fast if you keep saving it. So that is basically the gist of the palette editor. Just keep in mind the doors, you have to be very careful with those. So, because I messed that up in Fear very early on because I was not aware of that, or I was told and I ignored it for some reason. So keep that in mind. Save yourself some trouble later. So before we get into the tile sheet, we're going to look at the tile table editor. And let me just send this back to the right graphic sheet. So you can do quite a bit with the tile table here. Just be aware that, again, the CRE is the same across all graphic sheets. So if you make one change to this graphic sheet 1, it's going to have the same change in graphic sheet 20 and all in between. So really keep that in mind. And with the tiles, okay, so here's some things just to go in with the palette editor since we were just on that. These 4 corners here are the palette the tile uses. So if I wanted it to use whatever else palette line, you just click it till you get there, and you have to click it individually and it just cycles through. It's not the most intuitive thing, but that's how it works. So that's how you're going to end up doing it if you're going to make any changes. And you have to do it for all 4 corners. And then when you're done, you have to save it before you move off the tile, otherwise you lose what you just did. So that is how you change the palette for the tiles, and you have to do that individually for all of them. Which again, not very intuitive, but it's what we've got. Alright, so if we go over here, you'll notice the difference between these 2 tiles, and you can use this to move between tiles too. So if you notice, there's a slightly obvious little thing sticking out in the middle there. This red square is whether Samus appears in front or behind the tile. So for instance, the red square represents Samus, so in this case Samus appears in front of all 4 quadrants of this tile, and she appears behind all 4 quadrants of this tile. And this is transparent here, so, and this blue is transparent as well. It's this first color. So that's always set to transparent. I guess I should have mentioned that too. So Samus will appear behind these others here, this grass, but in front of everything else because they're transparent anyway. So what you could do with this is, if you wanted to make a fake platform, you could set it so that it's all in front of Samus until this one platform is like, oh wait, it's a bit mean, but you can do that. And how you could go about doing that is by copying the tile and paste it. Like, hey, now we've got this one piece here. And again, you have to do this all individually. It's amazing, I know, but that's the only one she really has to appear in front of, but kind of a bit. Yeah, I need to do that. And then do that there. Hey, now Samus will appear in front of, and it shows up here, Samus will now appear in front of this. Now, if you notice, this brings up something else with the tile table. These really should not be slopes. Or we don't want them to be those specific slopes. So if something is popping up, and I recommend you do this anyway. Oh, I can't do it today. If you do it from here without the graphics editor, this is still a graphics editing sort of thing, but when you're in this view on this tile table, double click the tile and you can change its property from there. So if we just want this to be air and BTS 0's default, just do that. We'll make sure all these are that. Then we put this up there. Now it's all air. Then if we go in and test this, Samus appears in front of it. So, and no slopes. So that is something else with the tile table there. So again, it's slow, it's not the most intuitive thing ever, but that's how you do it. So again, you can do a lot of interesting stuff with things like this. You can make walls or whatever. You can make this wall drop down here, make it look like a wall, but Samus really appears in front of it, so she just walks right through whatever visual thing you're going for there. You can do it by doing that. And the last thing to note is these little gray boxes do have a purpose. Basically, they flip the tile, they reverse the tile up and down and left, right on those axes, yeah, whatever. They flip the tile, so you will find, I'm not sure where that one's flipped, but you will come across that in tiles sheets a lot that aren't this one. Oh, there we go. So yeah, basically this is how the tile is normally, so to get the other side, just put them in on the wrong end, basically, and then flip them all that way so it comes up that way. So that's what those boxes are for. Those are just for flipping the little quadrant. And you've got your four corners for the palettes, and you've got whether it appears in front or behind Samus. And you have to save it. And the copy and paste thing, I did it, but I didn't really mention it. It's very simple. You just copy a tile, like if you're going to do something like this, where you want it to appear behind Samus, same tile. Just copy it, paste it somewhere, and then save. So that's hopefully explains that bit alright. This part is where some more external programs come in, like your tile editing programs like Tile Layer Pro, Tile Molester, whatever you use in that regard. This is where that would come in, because you can't actually draw new tiles in Smile. What you've got here is what you've got to work with, and this is all the bigger the tile sheets will ever be as well. So every tile you want, you've got to fit into this little space, which is where the flipping comes in handy, because you've got, I mean, obviously with all these tiles we've got here, that would not fit on this tile sheet. So there's a lot of reusing tiles from certain spots. For instance, like this thing. That's right here. And hey, look, power line 7. However, get over here, it's all using the same tile. Just flipped it to make this piece. So you've really got to combine your tiles, I guess. That may not be quite correct word, but you'll be using the same pieces to make different tiles, basically. So you don't have that much space, we'll just put it that way. There's not that much space to mess with, so you'll be, when you're messing around with this, you'll be trying to figure out what you really need and want, because otherwise, or because you will be having to sacrifice some other tiles. Say, I don't want these tiles in here, I can get rid of those. It's like, hey, I'm not using the scrolling sky background, I can get rid of those. There's obviously, that'll free up quite a bit of space in this tile set. And again, it depends on the tile set and which tiles you want to do. But again, you can't edit any of that from Smile. You have to use an outside program, and even if you just wanted to mix and match tiles, which is actually a very good thing to do. Say you wanted to add bubbles to any tile set, because who wouldn't? So to do that, you wanted to go back in here, and then in the GFX, there was the graphics, you've got two things in here, CRE and the scenery. So what this is, obviously, is scenery. And the scenery, I'll get into this in a little bit, because there's something a little special with that. With the scenery, that's basically all the tiles your tile set is built out of. So you can either export or import. So if you want to change it, you'd obviously want to export it. It'll pop up telling you where it put the GFX file, and that's what you open with TLP, TileMust, or whatever program you're using. I believe there's another that I'm forgetting. There's probably multiple others, but whatever program you use, to open that up. So if you wanted to add bubbles to this, you would go find, I believe it's 9? Okay, never mind. 10. Okay, so yeah, 10. 10 or 11. Open that up. You would export this. Then you can open both those up in whatever tile program you have. Put your bubbles in or import tiles over to here. Get rid of whatever you didn't want in here. So release that you had or whatever else. You would save that file, name it whatever, bubble mashup, whatever you want to do. Then you would come in and then you would import the scenery. And you would obviously name it whatever you had. So then you would import that. It would tell you new compressed size or whatever. And then you would see it in here. So after you do that, you would hit save, and then tiles in here would all go borked, because if you got rid of the release that you had, for instance, tried to put in some criteria tiles, you would have a whole bunch of criterion tiles here because it's pulling from these already. So if you see that, it's normal. It'll probably look like a whole bunch of mangled garbage though, so you have to go in, fix everything and all that. Probably fix what palette line it's using. But that is how you would do that. You would do the same with the CRE, though again the CRE is the same across all areas, so any changes you make will affect any tile set it's in. So when it comes to editing the CRE, I recently had a thing come up, thanks to my wonderful door thing in here. I was going to add another set of doors down here so that I could have my doors proper colors for my doors and set between each area. However, you don't want to edit this at all. Leave this as is when you open that up in your tile editor or whatever. Do not use this bottom line. The reason is, when you have an item such as morph ball, gravity suit, plasma beam, something like that, the graphics are temporarily loaded into here, so you will get a very garbled mess of either your item or whatever you put in down here, or both, should you happen to use these tiles. Because as you can see, the supers, the regular missiles, energy tanks, power bombs, and the orbs, those are all in there. Those are all fine and good. But the other items, which there's quite a few, that aren't there will be loaded into here. So keep that in mind, leave that blank, because that's why this is there. The items get loaded in there, and then they'll pop up and look alright. So, yeah, not much room in the CRE. Really isn't. I guess it depends on what you really want to do. If you are planning on getting rid of any refill stations, you could free up those tiles. If you didn't want speed booster in your hack, you could get rid of that tile. If you didn't want to get grapple, obviously. If you weren't ever going to use a locked door, which would be kind of silly with bosses. If you aren't going to use the eye doors, so on and so forth. You really have to sort of be careful with the CRE. You're a lot more limited with this than even these tile sheets, the scenery tile sheets. So I hope that's at least a somewhat understandable rundown of the graphics editor. Again, you can't edit tiles with this. You can only take what's in the tile sheet. you're going to have to use an outside program in order to make a whole bunch of the more fancier edits, I guess I would say. I mean, with this, you could obviously do something like this. You can make new tiles with what's there already, but to really get into making fully custom or even mixing tile sets properly, you're going to need to mash them together with something outside. So then obviously you import that and have fun. And fun, I put in quotation marks. So again, the graphics editor might be my least favorite thing to do in Smile, just because it's a little clunky. It's not the most intuitive thing ever. But it does allow you to do pretty much what you need to do. And again, the size of the series and tile sheet, that's basically the limits of the game. Not really much you can do with that. So you just have to get creative in what tiles. If you really want a full tile set, you have to get very creative in how you're going to fit it into one tile sheet. And then you have to remember where everything is so you can build it piece by piece back over here. I guess there's one more thing I should mention. With the quadrants, all of these are made up of little quadrants. So to make your tile, you have to drag and drop each quadrant. And then make whatever other changes you want to it. If you wanted different bubbles like that, could finish making them however else. So yeah, although that's kind of silly because you could just do it like this. So yeah, there's different ways of doing things. So hopefully this helped a little bit explain the graphics editor. It's something you will definitely be using. It's also something you probably don't want to use too much. But again, it's not the best thing, but it'll eventually get you to where you want to be. I'm just trying to see. Okay, so I guess a couple other quick things to mention real quick. If you have a palette made from somewhere else, like another hack or whatever you're trying to use, you can import or export the palette from the hack or whatever, another tile set, and then import it. It's the same as doing this. The tile table, that is for instance, I believe that is where all these are drawing tiles from. So for instance, this tile is drawing from these 4 spots. And the tile table, if you do make custom tile sets, please include this, because it's hard to build the tiles using other people's tile sheets because you're not familiar with it. So for instance, if I wanted to use Grime Soilian tile sheet, that thing is a wreck over here. It would be hard to build everything, but by importing the tile table, it'll fix over here in this sheet where all of these are drawing from, so that it'll have the proper tiles in the right spot and all that fun stuff. So if you make custom tile sets, please include that. Especially, thankfully Grime did, because that Soilian tile set is, like I said, a wreck over here. And then the pointers, basically, pretty self-explanatory. This is where all your pointers are for everything in here. So your palette tiles in the table. If you needed to repoint anything for some reason, this is where you get your pointers so you can adjust that. And you'll actually probably be using that mostly for the palette, or at least in my case I have, because again, I was very early on with Veer. So if you need to repoint, that's what you want to open up for that. And then there are some special things down here. Basically, I'm not going to get into those too much right now. But let me see. There's something like Zeeb's Boom. You can then rip that out. It'll make another little file like your tile sheets, which you can then... Some of them you can edit with TLP or whatever. Others you need another program. Because there's, for instance, like Mode 7, TLP can't edit. So you would need a different program. And then to import the file back in that you've edited, you just hit save. Pick whatever you edited. Open. And then just to be safe, I would click on it over a tile and save to ROM. Just to make sure it's saved. So that is how you would mess with those. And again, these are all require, every single one of them requires a outside program to edit. But you've got some other things in there. So if you wanted to get into a little more fancier stuff, you've got that option down there. And that's basically all I can think of to mention for the graphics editor. So hopefully this helps a little bit. At least explain the basics to get you started. Like I said, it's not my favorite. But it's still useful still. So anyway, that's it for this Smile tutorial. And we'll see you for the next one, and hopefully that helps you make some good hacks.